Thank you, Dr. Breeden, for an excellent rendition of what's happened. Let me take you back a little bit farther. In 1962, my mother, Connie Ogg, was the victim of a serial rapist who kidnapped her in downtown Houston and drove off fully intending to rape and murder her. How did she know that? He told her so. She was able to jump out of his moving car, and she saved her own life. There were no trauma-informed victim services for rape victims or intended sexual assault victims back then. When I became a prosecutor in 1987, the Mesozoic period, let me say, there were still very, very few services for sexual assault victims. And we had changed the terms. It was no longer rape victims, it was sexual assault victims. Let me say, this is one of the most traumatic crimes, in my experience as a prosecutor, that a crime victim can endure. It has lasting impact not only on the crime victim or survivor, but on their family. There's a reason that I wanted to become the district attorney of Harris County, the third most populous community in America. And that was to bring reform to many parts of our criminal justice system, not the least of which were crime victims and the way we treated and served them. And so in furtherance of that, I learned about a program called Texas F&E when I first became the DA. I also learned that not all hospitals had sane nurses, trained professionals. Even still, cops continued to interview victims when victims had the courage to report. This is a difficult personal invasion that's impossible if you haven't experienced it, I think, to truly understand it. But anything I felt that we could do that would improve that would be great. So I met Dr. Breeden and began the conversation of how they worked and watching the cases that came in that were handled by Texas F&E, and the evidence was better. It was sounder. But the fact that we still had forensic interviews of these most sensitive topics being handled by policemen who were not necessarily trained was a gap in the system. So we took forfeiture funds. What are those? Those are instruments of a crime left behind or seized from a criminal by law enforcement, lawfully forfeited in the courts after due process, and we reinvested those funds. And if you could hand me the check that's right behind you.
The big one. The big one. The big
That's funny. He's looking for a check. Here's the check. Thank you. So we, through Ms. Stallings, our chief prosecutor of the Sex Crimes Division, and Denise Onken, bureau chief over special victims, we took the people's money and reinvested it in our victims by helping, through this money, give Texas F&E the opportunity to train, hire, and utilize forensic interviewers, not policemen.
Thank you so much.
Now, how did this program start to involve all these other universities? Well, Dr. Breeden is right. Rice has always been on the forefront of addressing sexual assault, student issues, trying to raise awareness. But I know that all of the universities have done their part, all of the colleges, because as administrators of large institutions, especially that handle our children's safety, they have to be proactive. So when these universities and institutions heard about Texas F&E, I think it was a win-win. So how did they hear about it? This is the most hopeful part of the program to me. Isaiah Martin, a student at University of Houston, a friend of my son's, Jack Jordan, came to me with Jack and talked to me about some information that they had come across with their friends and in their life on campus and elsewhere, talking to people about sexual assault victims who needed more specific information on campuses delivered by the universities, but for the students. I love that idea. But I'm a I'm torn between many, many different interests and things that need improvement in our justice system. So I asked the young men, why don't you go meet Dr. Breeden? Why don't you work with Jonna Stallings and see what you can do for students? And they did. And so anytime that you have a program that is as organic as that, built and created from need of young people, where other young people are helping solve those problems, and I'm just so proud of you, Isaiah and Jack. Anytime we have a professional like Dr. Breeden who's thinking outside the box, how can we fix things, not who can we blame, and we have universities willing to participate, that's a win-win. So, congratulations everyone on our program, and I will turn it over to the next speaker.